Friends, I am so excited to introduce you to a new friend. Her name is Jess Wolstenholm, and she is the VP of Education and Research at Minno. And she is the executive producer of the Laugh and Grow Bible for Kids animated series for kids. She is such a cool mom, and I'm so glad to have her. Thanks, Jess, so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
For those who are not familiar, tell us about what Minno is and what makes it different from YouTube Kids, which we are very familiar with.
Yes, absolutely. So Minno is a streaming platform for Christian kids and families. We like to say that we help kids and families experience Jesus every day. And we add to that on and off the screen because even though we're a media company, we really want to balance out our inputs, all of our media inputs, right? So we like to do that on and off the screen. So our streaming video platform, which is like a YouTube Kids or a Netflix for Christian kids and families, that is one of the ways that we do that. But also we have books and we have lots of off-screen kind of activities and things to kind of get kids learning about the Bible in every area and every domain, so that they're not just on screens all the time, but they are learning about the Bible in other ways too.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit more about how to help our kids make wise screen choices. But before we go there, I want to talk about, I'm just coming as we're recording this from VBS, Vacation Bible School. And I'm looking at hundreds and hundreds of kids from preschoolers to sixth graders. My character is Arlene Jellybean, which is very fun because I get to do pigtails and I give out, I hang jelly beans around my neck, and the kids always ask, Arlene Jellybean, can I have a jelly bean? And I say, wait till the end of the day, and then they get one jelly bean, and it's so much fun. But there's such a difference from a 4-year-old that comes up to me wide-eyed, Arlene Jellybean, can I, and a sixth grader that's like, hey, can I have one? So kind of talk us through those ages. And just what's good for us as parents to note that's different about these different stages?
Yeah, it's something that we have spent a lot of time researching here at Minno, because something that we realized is that in a lot of kids' Christian media, more and more is being created, which is a blessing in a lot of ways because there's a lot more positive media choices out there, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we realized that a lot of times we weren't looking at the different ages and stages. And so we were trying to teach a 4-year-old about the Bible the same way that we're trying to teach a 12-year-old. And as you just said, they are vastly, vastly different. So we dug into child development and attachment theory and a lot of different ways to look at how a child develops. And so, for the preschooler, for the even early elementary school age, kids are, the world is so wide open to them, right? They are just soaking in everything. We like to say the ordinary is extraordinary to a preschooler.
Yes.
So that jelly bean is like so exciting, right? Because they don't get a lot of sugar, or maybe they do, but they still love jelly beans, and it's everything, right? So we like to look at it that way when we're teaching them about the Bible as well. And then when you get to the older kids, they are a little bit more reserved, as you were saying, and so they're a little bit more apprehensive, or just they're curious for sure. Kids that are older, right? They're asking a lot of questions, but they don't want you to know they're asking questions a lot of times, right? They just want to be, too cool. And so we have just looked at these different areas and really looked at how we can then use that to inform how we teach the Bible. And, something we talk about is what's called the 4 to 14 window. And that is that between the ages of 4 and 14, a child's worldview is formed. And I think the statistic is that 60% or maybe it's 70% of believers come to know Jesus before the age of 14. And so we know that this is such an important time. And because it's such an important time, we have got to be intentional about how we reach them at every age and stage. And so this determines the type of language we use with a 4-year-old versus a 14-year-old. It comes out in the way that we maybe pause and explain something more. Little kids are asking questions as well, right?
Right.
And because everything is novel to them. Everything they experience is novel. Going to the grocery store, going to church, of course, going to school for the first time. All these things are novel. They are asking questions, but what they really want are predictable routines.
Yeah.
And that's why when they are young, it is so important, if you were talking about faith formation and parenting, for things to be done in a predictable manner. So that's why we have boundaries for kids that are, all kids of all ages, but maybe they're a little tighter boundaries when they're younger because they need that predictability. They need to know what's expected. And then when you're teaching them the Bible, they need repetition and they need rhythms and they need to, pray at dinner time and bedtime. And it might seem like that doesn't matter and that's such a small thing, but those predictable routines are really instilling in them an understanding of what it means to walk with Jesus.
Yeah. So
and then when they get, no, go ahead.
So that predictability, that regularness, that is helpful. I think of someone who's watching a show like VeggieTales, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would then the parent come alongside of something that they've watched and maybe bring it up? What would that sound like or feel like if a parent, a lot of times we just watch the show and then we move on with our lives.
Yes. I think we don't think we have to model question asking for young kids because they ask so many questions, but they're asking why, how, what do you, and I think when we model thoughtful questions for them, so when we say to them, hey, why do you think that Bob and Larry did that? Or what do you think they meant when they said, and those questions seem really big for a young child, but it gets them thinking. And even if they stumble over an answer, it gets the conversation going. And you may end up being the one to answer the question that you asked them, but you've modeled for them that it's okay to ask questions. And that's especially important when you're interacting with Bible stories, because they need to know it's okay to ask questions about this. You don't just have to take it. Of course, we want them to just take it, accept it. It's truth. Go live like it. But they're human beings that are going to have to break it down. And they're going to have to say, okay, wait a second. Why is that true? Why does God say that? Or why did Jesus say that? And so modeling questions is so important for young people. And then they're naturally going to do it when they're older. But like we said earlier, they're probably going to be more reserved. They're like, I don't want you to know that I want to know, but I really do want to know.
How do you have these conversations with teenagers? Because I know with my teens, like if we see something and then they know, oh, here comes the mom question. What did you, and then I'll put like the moral in it and they'll know like, oh, mom is going to put the moral in it now.
Right.
So, do we just keep doing that? What do we do?
We do just keep doing it. Mine are teens as well. And so I totally understand that. I live that every day. And the thing that I really try to do and encourage parents is try to make it as natural a part of the conversation as possible. Like it can't feel like a quiz. Like, hey, we just watched this Bible story. Let me quiz you and see if you understood it. Instead, I really, really try even, and this is hard, let me tell you, when you're busy and you've got so many plates spinning, it's hard to do this, but I try to file it away and I ask the Holy Spirit to help me do this. But hey, God, the next time a conversation comes up about a friend, help me, prompt me, Holy Spirit, to remember this show we watched, this Bible story we studied, so that I can connect the dots for them. And that is not easy, but I do believe it's a skill that we can develop as parents with the help of the Holy Spirit, because we can't do any of it on our own.
I have found like after church, my kids are 16, 19, 21. We're in a unique season this summer where everyone is home, from college, et cetera. So we're
Yeah.
in the car on the way home from church, and my husband, not always, but sometimes we'll just ask you like, what did you think of the sermon, or what stood out to you in the sermon? And that's it. And it is, it's, they know it's coming and they know we want to talk
Yes.
about those things, but it's simple enough that I think it works. So maybe just ask one question. It doesn't have to be the super long
Exactly.
thing, but just starting to have these conversations is really
Yeah.
helpful. I want to go back to the 4 to 14 window because
Yeah.
that's profound.
Yeah.
Like to realize I have 10 years, shoulder to shoulder, face to face, with this beloved child of mine to do the best I can to, as I go, Deuteronomy 6, teach my kids,
Yes.
impress my kids, the word of God. And obviously the screen in their hands can be a huge,
Yes.
temptation and distraction. And here at the Happy Home Podcast, we talk about delaying those phones
Yeah.
as long as possible. Mine staying all the way through high school. So
Wow.
we talk about that. Why is it so important in that faith formation for us as parents to get our media under control? What have you seen in the people you work with and yourself?
Yeah. Well, I like to say that kids need to see us care about the things that they care about. And so every time, and listen, I have done this. This is a struggle for all of us. So I by no means have this under control. Mine are 18 and 14. And I want to say something in a minute about the 4 to 14 window, having a 14-year-old. But I will say, I always say that it is important for kids to know that we care about what they care about. And so every time they look at us and we're on our screens instead of focusing on them, then that sends a message that that screen is more important than me. Now,
And they can think, I want to care what my parent cares about. And
right,
apparently my
exactly.
parent really cares about that thing. So
Yeah.
I
So if
should
it's
care
important
too.
to them, if it's important to them, it can be important to me, right? And there are times when you have to be on your phone. I will be in front of a screen. I work from home some days, and so
Same.
they come through, and I'm working, and so they need to understand those boundaries. And I had a friend once say, narrate your phone usage.
I
Hey,
like that.
I'm replying to an email for work, or I have to schedule this meeting. Just give me 1 second, and then you're going to get my full attention. And narrating that screen use, it helps. Now, it doesn't completely handle it. We still have to really keep it under control, and we have to have our own boundaries, especially if we want our kids to have boundaries. And we need to talk about those things when we screw up, when we've been too focused on the phone. We need to be honest with them, because when we do send them out into the world, into adulthood, or whenever it is that they do get screens, they need to understand you're not going to do it perfectly, but here's some things that we've put into practice to help with those boundaries.
Yeah,
And I think
I like the narration piece very
yeah,
much,
isn't
because
that
then you can
so
realize
good?
like, oh, I didn't narrate that I was going to be like looking at these sports scores or these stock
Right.
prices or these shoes. Like I didn't
Yeah.
narrate about that. So why have I drifted into this place?
Exactly. It is a little bit of accountability for you. And then you can invite them in, right? I mean, my son plays tennis. He loves tennis. If we see a funny meme or a tennis, like a little clip of a tennis match, we
Yes.
share that together. You can definitely interact, because back to when you care about what your kids care about, they're going to care about what you care about. So if I want my kids to understand Jesus is the most important thing to me, I care about him so much, and all I want is for you to have a relationship with him,
Yeah.
they're going to be more open to that if they understand, I also care about what you care about. Now, that seems weird because Jesus is more important than tennis, but in a 14-year-old's mind,
Yeah.
he may not be yet. And my goal is
Yes.
to make Jesus more important than tennis.
Yeah.
And so there's just a little bit of the exchange that really helps. As they're growing.
Yeah.
But I did want to say about the 4 to
Yeah.
14 window, because I have a 14-year-old, and it could be very easy to feel like, well, I missed it. I missed the window. The window is closed. And that is not true. That is not
Mhm.
true. Of
Yeah.
course, it's a statistic. It is an average. My son is 14, and he just went to church camp for the first time and had, this wonderful encounter with God.
Oh,
And it he just wasn't open to it before then. He was,
Yeah.
just socially anxious, just a little scared to interact with the kids at youth group. And so in God's timing, right? It's all in God's timing. That statistic is meant to show us that that is a key formative season from
Yeah.
4 to 14, when they're super young, their neural pathways are growing, and everything we do forms their future view of God. The way we talk about him, the way that they feel at church, all those things form their early view of God as their brain is still forming. And then as they go through their moral development, as they get older and go through puberty and all that, it is very, very formative, and we can be very intentional. But just because your kids may not be going as deep as you'd like them to be during that time does not mean that you've
Yeah.
missed the window. So it's important to say.
It is. What if someone's listening and they say, okay, I have more hope now. It's not over for my 14, 15, 16, 17 year old. Let's say we haven't
Right.
really been talking about the Bible much. We haven't really been watching shows that show, moral values that I really agree with. How would that parent then, what's like something like a first step they could take?
Yeah. Start small. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I think because faith and our faith, if you're a believer, is so big to us and is so
Yeah.
important to us, we think big. It has to be big. We have to, sit with the Bible for an hour as a family every night or even once a week. And it's just not probably going to happen. And so start small and make it habits, because I think that if you study the Bible together even for 10 minutes a week, when you multiply that times 18
Yes.
years, that
Yeah.
is a huge investment in your child's faith formation. If you try to do it for an hour once a week and you do it occasionally, it's
Right.
not even going to add up. And so it's just simple math, right? We'll
Yes.
call that faith math.
Faith
So
math. I love it.
faith
Little
math.
is
So
much when God is in it. That
that's
is the
right.
loaves and the fishes. Yes.
Exactly. And he will multiply it, and you're planting seeds. And so start small and be okay starting small. It's never too late. And then the other thing I like to tell parents is you're growing together. Deuteronomy 6 was about being together. It was about learning together. That's part of my faith story that I always share, is that my parents came to know the Lord right before they got married. They had kids right away. And so we grew up in our faith right alongside them. And it was
Mm.
messy, and they were learning, what does it mean to follow Jesus, while they were teaching us what it means to follow Jesus. And that authenticity, I think, played a large part in why I am still walking with God.
Wow. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful, right? It's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
it is. It
Like, of those
is.
people who, if you've been a Christian a long time, then it's like, "Oh, Lord, bring me back to that fervor and
Yes.
just sincerity of my first love." And then if you're
Yeah,
a newer Christian, don't feel at all like, "I can't do this." It's like, "No, you can do this. Just bring your child right alongside of you
that's
and
right.
keep learning more about Jesus every day a little bit more, and that's gonna do it." Let's
That's
talk
right.
about wise media choices, because let's say the
Yes.
parent, right, they're looking at YouTube, their kids ask them to go to a certain movie with their friends and they don't know, should we do this? Should we not do this? Help us. How can we evaluate it? And let's talk about, we kind of know, like, okay, we can tell that's good, but
Yes.
then we go the opposite line. Like, how bad can we get and it still be okay? So
Still
kind
be
of help
okay.
us think through
Yeah.
how we make these media choices.
Yeah, I think it's definitely different for every family, every child.
And let's
And
start with little kids. Let's start with little kids,
yeah,
then we'll move up.
okay. So, for little kids, some little kids can handle more than others. And that's not to say that you should put hard things in front of little kids at
Right.
all. But I
Right.
say that because, there's hard things in Bible stories. And so, for instance,
Totally.
you want to take your entire family to see the David film, the David animated film that came out. And there are some hard things in there.
They're like, if
Goliath
you're a little
actually,
kid,
if
I
you're a
would
little
be
kid,
afraid.
right?
Yes,
Goliath
Amalekite,
looks
I would be
scary.
afraid. Yeah.
The Amalekites were scary. They did a good job with them. But for a small child, some I could see some 4 or 5 year olds have no problem with that. And I could see some that would be super sensitive. And so the very first thing is to know your child and to know what they can handle and to do your research. There's lots of resources out there to help you with movie reviews and show reviews and things like that.
Yes.
Because it is not one size fits all for kids. But for the littlest kids, there's different types of media, like there is slow and gentle media. And so on Minno, we have some specific shows designated slow and gentle because you might need an afternoon, slow time if mom just has to get a little work done or get the dishes done or the laundry done or take a shower and she needs 30 minutes, there she might want slow and gentle. You might be doing a family movie night and you might want something a little more exciting and adventurous. And so I think for the littlest kids, there's different categories that might be appropriate for different situations.
I love that you have those categories at Minno that you could be like, okay, I don't want my kid going crazy. I want something calming but interesting, and I can see this. That's amazing.
Yes. And then, if it's learning, we also have learning categories. And so, and of course on Minno, we have vetted everything that's on there. And so you can trust that, we vetted it, because there are some mainstream learning shows out there that just aren't appropriate for kids these days. And so we've picked a few that we know share our values.
What would be like the characteristics, not naming any shows, but just characteristics that you would say, oh, that's the show we probably should avoid? What should parents be looking for?
Yeah. Even at a very young age, there are shows that have kids that are a little more snarky characters. We try to really stay away from that because kids are going to be snarky. We understand that.
Right. But you don't need to be watching the snarky kid every day.
It normalizes it. It gives them ideas, that they don't need to have.
That's true.
Everything from that, something like that, to, discussion, anything that has to do with gender identity and things like that these days that are in some mainstream programming.
Totally.
That is whatever you feel about that, it's not appropriate for kids, for young kids. It's just not necessary. And so we want to really focus on the learning and character and values, and even social emotional learning is very important because kids need to understand how to interact with one another. And so we do have some social emotional shows just for that reason, where they're learning how to share, they're learning how to be a good friend, and those are important. Yeah. Those are important things too.
Yeah. Talk about older kids, how to help them make wiser media choices.
Goodness, it gets harder. It really, really gets harder. And so for me, with my older kids, one thing is I watch things with them. If I'm not sure about it, one, when they're younger, especially, and as they get older, I'll watch it first. Once they get to a certain age, I'll maybe watch it with them after doing a little bit of research myself, just to make sure, if it is a little harder, that we can have good conversations about it. And again, every family is going to have different convictions about certain things that they do or don't want to watch. And it really is a personal thing. And so, understanding, especially with your spouse, or, if you have a spouse in the home, understanding being aligned about what you want your kids to see or stay away from.
Yeah.
And then watching together is a really important thing, especially if you're like, well, this doesn't seem so bad, but there's certain things. Let's watch it together. That way we can talk about it. And because we can't shield them from everything, they are going to encounter certain things. So making it normal for you to watch it together and talk about it is, I think, one of the best things you can do.
Yeah. As they get older, we haven't done it much, but I heard this from a friend. I thought it was really cute that you have the family movie night and you take turns of who chooses the movie.
Who chooses? Right? So, that's nice.
Choosing a movie that you like, so that your boy likes, your teenage girl likes, that you think has a chance, of the other family members liking it, right? But then you are getting to know everyone's tastes and what they like.
Yes, that's such a great idea.
Miraculous when you find a movie that, like, hey, all of us kind of liked
It's
it,
very miraculous.
across all the ages. This is good.
Yes.
So, if you've listened to me that I'm like, put your phone away and please get off screens and go live a real life. And believe me, that is
Which is
go
so
get a
true.
hobby. That's what we want. But when
Yes.
you do make the choices, because I grew up on television. I grew up on The
Yeah.
Cosby Show and Family
Mm,
Ties and Gilligan's Island and I Love Lucy and The Brady Bunch and Moonlighting and Remington
yeah.
Steele and just watched all those shows all the time. But those shows, and those of you who are younger, like, I have no idea what that lady is talking about.
I
But
know them all.
right. But they were just on like once a week. And then
Yeah.
it was over. And then the season ended and you didn't watch. So it was completely different the
Completely
way
different.
we watched. And so I would just encourage you, families, when you do watch things, don't watch things individually.
Right.
Watch things together as a family
As
with
much as
family move
possible.
night. Look at Minno, and look for things together and watch. And that's a totally different dynamic of
Yeah.
you're popping popcorn and you're talking to each other, totally different than everyone in their own room. And dad's watching sports, mom shopping, sisters playing, on Instagram, brothers playing a video game. That's totally a different dynamic.
Yeah.
So we want to get back to this
That's right.
family movie night. Now, Minnow is kind of amazing because they're theologically sound, developmentally appropriate. So where they're understanding these ages and stages, you can find
Yeah.
shows that are for your child's age group. And then they're actually fun and engaging. So just kind of in your family and the experiences you've heard about, what are kind of those high points of what families are sharing, why they enjoy Minnow?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest things is they love that they can allow their child to navigate
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
Especially with screens and media, we want to teach agency because we want them eventually to understand what it means to discern good media.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why it's important to watch things together. If you're not sure about it, or if maybe it is a little harder, like we said, it's important to watch together because you're going to help them through those conversations learn discernment. And then on Minnow, hopefully they don't have to use too much discernment because we've done that for
Right.
them, but it
Yeah.
gives them agency of choosing what they like, what they don't like, and experiencing it that way.
Yeah.
But we still encourage family time. I mean, that's shared experiences is a huge value for us here.
I see it as such an advantage because, I always tell people if you want to go to the thrift store and get a DVD player and a DVD,
Yeah.
because at least you know what your child
Yes,
is
what's on
watching.
there.
And then when you go to a platform like Minnow and parents go there, don't take our word for it, like check it out yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
at least then you can feel much more secure about your
That's
child
right.
choosing out a show. It's kind of like choosing it from the DVD drawer of all these
Right,
things.
because you've chosen those DVDs. Yeah, and we've spent a lot of time going through all of the shows. We just added audio. That's another thing. We have a screen-free option, so you can
That's
listen
neat.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we like to say it's like Netflix for Christian kids and Spotify for Christian kids because now they can
Yes.
listen to audiobooks and music and all kinds of things. But when you go there, there's a lot of different options. Most of it is explicitly Christian. Some of it isn't. Like I said, we've vetted a lot of educational shows. But one of the other things we hear from parents is how much their kids know and understand the Bible after watching
Wow.
Minnow
Oh,
because
that's
of
amazing.
yeah, because we have multiple Bible shows, but our main Bible show is the Laugh and Grow Bible for kids, and it was a storybook Bible, and then we animated it, and we have about 65 episodes and lots more
Mm.
to come, animating the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and so
Wow.
kids are really understanding the Bible stories and not just Noah and a bunch of cute animals, and then there was rain, and then there was a rainbow. They're understanding the big picture narrative of the
Yeah.
Bible and why did that happen, and what
Mm.
led to that, and then what happened after that, and how does it point to Jesus? And so we're being very purposeful in how we teach kids the big story of the Bible and theology and really helping to form an early view of God that is healthy and that is just loving and balanced and just really helping them to develop that faith in the long haul.
I feel like from this
Yeah.
conversation, if we can take away as parents, okay, how can our media glorify God? Like, is there a way
Yes.
for me to use media to teach my
Yeah.
children more about Jesus? Is there a way that's age appropriate that they would like? And let me lean into that. Let me use that. That's so encouraging. Can you imagine a generation of kids who actually understood biblical things? That would just be
I
amazing.
know.
It's like,
It
you know things like this is amazing.
That's the
That's
goal.
great.
That is the
Yes.
goal. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're always excited to get these amazing notes from parents saying that their
Yeah.
kids, knew all the fruit of the spirit because they watched this episode or they understood. And we don't shy away from big words either. Like we have an episode about justification and things like
Yeah.
that. And so we're just breaking it down. Though we take time to slowly explain what that means, even if the child does not understand it at 4 years old. We've kind of given that first introduction, and then we like to say we give them truth to grow on. So they get the truth and then they can grow into it.
I love it. We parents were like, I'm going to watch that one about justification.
Well, it does help. It really, we've had a lot of parents say, hey, I didn't even
Oh,
understand this, and now
I
I do.
love
And so
it.
that's wonderful too.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Jess, how can people, anything you want to share that we didn't touch on, and how can people find out more about Minno?
Yeah. Uh, you know, I just want to go back to it's never too late.
Yeah.
I really want parents to understand that, because we are so hard on ourselves, and especially if we care about introducing our kids to Jesus, it can feel like the biggest job, and so overwhelming, and just want them to know it's never too late, and the Lord will lead you and guide you in how to plant those seeds that you may not see the fruit of those for a while, but you're planting those seeds, and
Yeah.
He's faithful to bring
Mm,
it about. So yeah,
so
that's
good.
that's what I love to
Yes.
encourage parents.
Yeah.
They can find Minno at gominno.com. It's GOMINNO. Minnow is actually
Yeah. I was
an
going to ask you, what does
Anglican.
Minno
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. I'll tell
Yes.
you what it means. It is actually the Anglican spelling of the Greek word meno, which means to abide, because that is what we want, is to help kids and families abide with Jesus every day. So it's gominno, MINNO.com, and you can start a free trial and give it a try and see what we have there. You can browse all the shows, and it's on every device that you can think of. I think the only device we're not on is Xbox, but we're on all smart TVs and Apple and Roku and all that, and Amazon. And so they
That's
can give it a try there.
awesome. I love
Yeah.
this. Abide in Jesus. Thank you so much, Jess. This has been so helpful. Let
Oh, I'm so
us
glad.
all who have been listening, let us make those good screen choices for the Lord and for the health of our kids. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Jess.
Well, thanks for having me.